You're like a f***ing child with the food and what's going on here, Paulie?
It's a big thing to me, P.
Here's what no one admits about the Sopranos Italy trip. It's the harshest indictment of American Italian identity ever put on screen. The much celebrated Italian excursion functions less as a cultural homecoming and more as a traveling circus of second-generation mythology.
The mother country. Hey, here they make it real.
Soviets. Jesus.
Three men who spend every waking moment advertising their Italian pride finally arrive in the motherland, only to discover, tragically, that Italy already has Italians, and none of them are impressed.
Commendatore, you are already checked in.
Commendatore. Like a commander. I like that. That's respect.
Tony approaches the trip with the confidence of a man who assumes that ancestral geography alone confers mastery. Within minutes, he is hopelessly captivated by his distant cousin, whose chief talent is converting his fantasies into a worse business deal than he intended. Whether she conned him or merely negotiated like someone who has met a calculator remains open for debate.
Nino says we always ask your uncle for more cars, but he was no supply.
That's why I'm here.
Either way, she walks away with favorable terms and the transfer of Furio, a prize whose value, even at the cost of a few overpriced cars, far exceeds Tony's initial bravado. Curiously, Tony also demonstrates rare self-restraint, treating her as a peer rather than a prospective conquest. The fact that this counts as growth reveals everything one needs to know.
Oh, Paisan. What do you call it?
Paulie's experience resembles a senior class trip for a student no one wants to sit with.
Can I just get some macaroni and gravy?
He attempts to speak Italian, is shocked when the locals fail to comprehend his Newark dialect, and then announces that the Italians have somehow forgotten their own language. He spends the rest of his time lecturing a bored prostitute, who may or may not be a blood relative, about the majesty of the very country she lives in. His disappointment crescendos when he discovers that Italy's toilets and table wine do not conform to the folklore of his grandmother's kitchen. Only when he is safely back in Newark, gazing at depressing industrial parks through smog-tinted glass, does he finally relax. Home, at last, where someone might still pretend he is authentically Italian.
Look at this fucking place, huh? Been here 1,000 years.
Christopher, meanwhile, arrives with lofty ambitions of cultural enrichment, chiefly a pilgrimage to Mount Vesuvius, yet spends the trip anesthetized by heroin. His grand Italian adventure ends not on a volcanic summit, but in an airport gift shop, purchasing last-minute trinkets while barely conscious. The shot of him glassy-eyed in the passenger seat is among the show's finest visual summaries. A man determined to seize opportunity, derailed, as usual, by chemical gravity.
Just a kid.
The trip also offers a sharp contrast between the American mobster's self-image and the real Camora's casual brutality. A street beating carried out in broad daylight shocks the visiting dignitaries, who expected something closer to an opera than a crime syndicate. The local police drive past with studied indifference, underscoring the point. This is not New Jersey cosplay. This is the real thing, and it has no time for diaspora theatrics. This dynamic mirrors a broader truth. The American crew, so quick to mock the Zips, becomes the butt of the joke the moment it crosses the Atlantic.
You're like a fucking child with the food and the pussy. What's going on here, Paulie?
It's a big thing to me, P.
Their conception of Italian identity is a curated museum exhibit, religious matriarchy, culinary mythology, and sentimental nostalgia, packaged for domestic display. When confronted with the actual culture, the gap between fantasy and reality becomes irreconcilable. The result is comedy, though of a distinctly anthropological variety. Amid the farce, the episode quietly skewers the phenomenon of invented heritage. Italian-American identity is the target here, but it could just as easily apply to the many forms of theatrical ethnicity that flourish in the diaspora. Stage Irishness built around Guinness and grievance, decorative Celtic knots purchased from airport kiosks, grand declarations of ancestral loyalty unburdened by any knowledge of modern politics or national life. In this context, the American visitors are not villains, so much as energetic amateurs performing a cultural pageant for an audience that never asked for it.
I'm gonna hoof it back to the Excelsior. I gotta take a wicked shit.
Yet, for all its satire, the episode remains essential. It exposes the insecurity behind the bravado, the longing beneath the machismo, and the profound comedy of men who finally meet the culture they claim to embody and respond with bewilderment, disappointment, or, in Paulie's case, gastrointestinal distress. Even Tony, who manages flashes of dignity, cannot help bragging upon his return, inflating the details of the deal to mask the humiliation of being outmaneuvered by someone he initially underestimated. The show's creators have expressed dissatisfaction with the episode's lack of authenticity regarding Italian organized crime. Ironically, this very flaw strengthens its thematic purpose. The point is not to accurately depict the Italian underworld. The point is to demonstrate how foreign it is to the people who believe they are its spiritual descendants. The visitors wander through Naples as though navigating a dream in which every cherished assumption collapses. The comedy lies not merely in their foolishness, but in the precision with which their illusions unravel.
Downstairs, go left.
Even the small moments land with surgical accuracy. Paulie inspecting a toilet as if it were a moral failing.
Commendatore, you are already checked in.
Tony's face tightening when he realizes the locals are mocking him in Italian. Christopher drifting into narcotic oblivion. The jubilant return to New Jersey, where industrial wastelands and chemical skies feel more authentically home than the sun-drenched birthland. It is both sacred and absurd, profane even, but entirely perfect. The Italy trip ultimately reveals the crew's defining trait. They are, without exception, catastrophically unqualified for self-discovery. Their identity survives only in environments tailored to flatter it. Once removed from that ecosystem, everything wilts, vein and vine alike. The episode's brilliance lies in its refusal to moralize. It simply observes these men colliding with reality and lets the resulting chaos speak for itself. In the end, the excursion achieves exactly what the series excels at, transforming delusion into narrative art. It is a comedy of heritage, of ego, of secondhand culture worn like a Halloween costume. And in its own way, it is one of the most revealing portraits the series ever produced. Subscribe